Podcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
We want to welcome everyone to our ELK Products webinar today on utilizing the email feature of the M1XEP. My name is Beth Carter, and I'm going to be helping facilitate the questions today. Our actual facilitator is going to be Brad Weeks, and Brad has been with ELK now for almost over 13 years. He's in our tech support department. Many of you have probably talked to Brad before, and he'll be great for follow-up if you have questions after the webinar as well. I just want to let you know we will be having, we continue to have webinars on a monthly basis, and those are always posted on our website at elkproducts.com. We also email those if you're on our email list. Now, once again, we thank you for joining us. We hope to make this a beneficial hour for you today. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Brad.
All right. Thank you, Beth. Once again, we would like to thank everyone for taking time out of their schedule to attend today's webinar on utilizing the email feature of the XEP module. And if everyone is ready, we'll get started. Now remember, at any time, if you have questions, please feel free to type them into the questions box, and we will try to get to as many of those as possible. Anything we can't get to during the webinar, there will be a follow-up email. The webinar will be recorded and made available on our website, so if you happen to miss it or anything, or like to review it again, archives are available. All right, today we're going to talk about the email feature of the M1XEP module. Now, the XEP module allows the M1 system to be connected to the local area network or accessed remotely using the ELK-RP software, or there is a graphical user interface built into it. It's a Java applet we call M1 Virtual Keypad. It's a secure connection and allows anyone with a web browser running Java to access the system and control the arming and disarming lights, things of that nature. Now, the XEP module incorporates a Ethernet module from a company called DigiConnect-ME, and that's the silver can here on the picture here on the right-hand side. This silver can houses the web browser. It also supports the email function of the XEP module. Also available through the XEP module is the ability to have internet monitoring and reporting to a SureGuard 3 receiver or to the Osborne-Hoffman 2000E software running at your central monitoring station.
Brad, excuse me 1 minute. We're not seeing your slide. We're seeing the initial slide, the utilizing the email feature, but we haven't advanced.
Okay, let's see here. I apologize for that. Bear with me 1 second.
Okay.
How are we now?
We're
okay.
Good. Thank you.
All right. Bear with me 1 second. We will. All right, I apologize for that little mishap. All right, once again, we're going to talk about utilizing the email feature of the XEP module. Okay, and anytime during the webinar, you should see a box for questions. Please feel free to type those questions in, and we'll try to get to as many of those as possible during our time. This should be about a 45-minute webinar, and if you happen to miss anything or like to review it again, it will be available on our website under the archives. Okay, pictured here on the right-hand side of the screen is the ELK-M1XEP. And the XEP allows the system to be connected to your local area network or accessed through the internet using your ELK-RP software or the graphical user interface virtual keypad. The XEP module incorporates an Ethernet connection from a company called DigiConnect, and it's the ELK-M1XEP module. That's the silver can here on the right-hand side. And this supports the embedded Java applet, as well as handling the email functions of the XEP module. We do have capability of having the system monitored over the internet to a SureGuard 3 receiver or to the Osborne Hoffman 2000E software running at your central monitoring. XEP module does support updating using dynamic DNS. Now, some additional features of the email function of the XEP module is you can have up to 16 email messages. Each message can have up to 255 characters of text. Now, the email function is great for being alerted when the system is armed or disarmed, when alarms are activated, if you have a high-low temperature based upon rules, system troubles, things of that nature. Now, to get started, when you first open your ELK-RP software and you open your account, in the lower right-hand corner of your account details screen, you'll see the XEP Setup button. And when you click the XEP Setup button, you'll have a dialog box that looks similar to what we're looking at right now. It has 8 tabs on it. Today we're going to be talking about the TCPIP Setup and the Email tab. Now, under the TCPIP Setup, there's some important information that we must have entered correctly. First, you'll notice we have an IP address. Now, that's the local area network IP address for your XEP module. And in this case, it's 192.168.0.192. The subnet mask typically will be 255.255.255.0. Your default gateway is the local IP address of the router. In this case, it's 192.168.0.1. And right below this is the primary DNS server. Now, the primary DNS server is important information when routing information out of the XEP, such as the email, and that information typically would be provided by your internet service provider, or you can look it up through the router setup table if the router supports viewing that information, or you can try clicking from your desktop. You click Start, Run, type CMD, press Enter, and then type ipconfig/all. That's one word, ipconfig/all. And you should see listed in the information primary DNS server. But just to be on the safe side, I'd probably check with your internet service provider to obtain this information. If they happen to give you the secondary DNS server, go ahead and enter that as well. Also on the TCPIP Setup tab is the non-secure port 2101 and the secure port 2601. These really don't pertain to the email function, but it's a good idea to have those set up beforehand. Now, the XEP does support email capability, and normally we would recommend you use your internet service provider's email service when possible. But in some cases, it may not be, or you may not be able to use that function, so there are some alternate email providers. Now, listed below are 3 that at the time of this webinar were free services, but ELK doesn't endorse, nor can we guarantee their reliability, nor can we guarantee there'll be free services in the future. But you're welcome to check out AOL.com, GMX.com, and LavaBit.com for free email service providers. And below is a link to our website on some recommendations on setup under the XEP. Now these services listed here do not require the SSL encryption on the body of the message. The XEP in itself does support encryption on the email address, username, and password, but not the body of the message.
Brad, we do have a question.
Sure.
Why is the SSL service not implemented?
Like I said earlier, we use the DigiConnect-ME module, and at this time Digi does not support the SSL encryption on the body of the message. They do for the username, password, and the email, but the body isn't SSL encrypted. All right, the next tab we're going to take a look at is the actual email setup. Now under this tab, when you click email, you have your server URL, and that's the outgoing mail server of your provider, whether it be your internet service provider, or in this case we've set up a GMX account. And the outgoing mail server address is simply mail.gmx.com. In their case, they're using outgoing mail for port 25. You have to have a valid from address entered, in this case the smiths@gmx.com, and you must enter the username and password for the account. Now in some cases you may actually have to enter the full username, meaning the smiths@gmx.com, as the username, and then your password. Below this is the actual setup for the 16 email addresses. You can have 16 individuals, or you can have them all going to the same email address, and then you have the body of the message, which can be up to 255 characters long. Now it's very important that once you have this information entered, that you send this information down to the XEP module. So when you
Brad? Everyone hold on, we must be having an audio difficulty with Brad. He'll be right back with us.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. All right, Beth, can you tell me when the audio went?
We were just missing you for a few seconds. It was not long.
Okay. All right, well, once you get your information entered under the email tab, it's important to send that information down to the XEP. So we click send at the bottom of the screen, which will send the information from the RP software, the XEP setup, into the XEP module. At this point, it's important that the XEP reboot. Now, you should be prompted through the RP software, your XEP needs to be rebooted. Click OK. Or you can click the reboot button at the bottom of the screen. You can also power cycle the XEP, which will cause a reboot in this situation. Now, not only are we able to send emails, it's also possible to configure an email to send a message to your cell phone. Now, the email format and the service requirements and the costs may vary between one provider and the other, so please check with your cell provider for complete details. Now, below we have some examples of some popular cell providers: Alltel, AT&T, Sprint, T-Mobile, US Cellular, and Verizon. Now, very simple. You see the 10-digit phone number followed by the format that they support to send a text message to your phone. Once you've entered your email information, whether it be to a regular email account or to your cell phone, and the information is sent down to the XEP module, you can test this function of sending an email from this screen. So once the XEP is rebooted and you're able to reconnect back to it, you could click Test. And what that's going to do, it's going to send email number 1. This is the only time that you can have ELK-RP connected to the system and send an email. If you have rules set up to send email and ELK-RP is connected, those emails will not send. So to test the functionality beforehand, click your test button, wait a couple minutes, then check your inbox or your phone to see if your message has been delivered. Now, to have the system send you an email or a text message to your phone, you must create a rule. So in this case, we've set up rules through the RP rule engine that whenever area 1 becomes armed, then send email message number 1 to the smiths@gmx.com. Now, the body of the email message, what you type into the 255 characters, that's exactly what's going to get sent. At this time, there's no way to insert additional data into the body of the email message, meaning that you can't insert zone numbers, alarm conditions, usernames, and so forth. What's in the body of the message is exactly what's going to get sent when you send your email through the rules.
Brad, I do have a question.
Sure.
Are all messages hard-coded, or can you pass information from the system in it? For example, user XXX armed or disarmed the system.
No, it's all hard-coded. There's no way to insert additional data into the body. So, for instance, if your email message is number 1, the system is armed, regardless of who armed it, then it's just going to be the system was armed. Now, you could write rules based upon and last user, but then that takes up a lot of your email capability when you try that.
One more, Brad, while we have a break. Are there plans to allow the body of the email to be parameterized? Excuse me.
Right. Great question. Unfortunately, at this time, we're at the limitations of the DigiConnect ME, and at this time they don't support that feature. But that's not to say that won't change in the future. But at the time of this webinar, no, there's no plans to enhance that any further.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Now, in case for some reason your email is not sending, there's some things that you can check. Obviously, we want to double check under our TCPIP settings tab that we have the correct primary DNS server. We also want to make sure that our email service provider does not require the SSL encryption on the body of the message. It's very important to have a valid from address, and make sure that we didn't accidentally type the wrong username and or password into the email setup tab. Now, built in to the RP software, we now have a troubleshooting diagnostic tool that is the XEP Setup Debug Trace window. And on the left-hand side of the screen in ELK-RP, if you were to simply left-click on a blank area, then press Control and F7, it'll open up the Debug Trace window. And you might have to resize it to be able to see information in it, but you can see under the Show Setup area, we can select Email, and as the system is trying to send that email, information will be logged into the center of the screen. In the event you're having an issue here, you can always copy into clipboard, paste that into an email, and send that to tech support at elkproducts.com so we can take a look and perhaps determine what is not working under this situation. So once again, press Control F7 to bring up the XEP Debug Trace window in ELK-RP. Another nice troubleshooting diagnostic tool is the XEP Diagnostic Utility. Now this is available for download from the support section of our website. It is a standalone software tool used to assist with troubleshooting. When you download it and run it, there are a number of items that you can check for. Right now we're focusing on the XEP setup, but this is a similar screen as what you'll see when you download and run it. Through the Diagnostic Utility, you can actually send the email message, and once again it'll log information that may be beneficial to tech support in determining why your email is not working. You can always copy and paste this information into an email and forward it to us, and we'll be happy to take a look at it for you. If you haven't had an opportunity to try the new Diagnostic Utility, I'd encourage you to download it. It's really a nice utility. And in this following screen, you can see that in the attempt to send the email, information was returned back, and we have some notes here as things to check for, which may be possible causes for it not to go out. Do you have any questions? Do you have any questions?
Yeah, not at this time. Thanks.
Okay. Good, good. Well, you guys were awful quiet today, so we finished up a little faster than I anticipated. To recap, we have the XEP setup, which is available through the RP software when you open your account, and we need to confirm the primary DNS server address is correct, and we need to make sure that we're using a non-SSL encrypted on the body of the email provider, and there are several free providers available. Once the XEP is set up and configured and the information is downloaded into it, you create your rules that send the email messages. You can have up to 16 email messages, which can go to regular email accounts or be configured as a text message to a phone. And using the rules, you can have that information emailed out to you when events take place.
Okay, Brad, we do have a few questions.
Good.
Can you review again how to access the debug?
Sure, absolutely. Bear with me. All right. When you're in ELK-RP and you have your account open, on the left-hand side of the screen, we call that the Windows tree. If you simply right or left-click on any white space, any blank space on the left-hand side, you can then press Control F7, and it'll open the Debug Trace window. Like I said, in some cases it'll be a small window. You have to resize it, and then from there you can show setup of the email or the whole system, and it may be beneficial to copy that to clipboard and forward that to tech support so we can take a look at your settings within there, within the XEP. That's the debug trace window. The other diagnostic tool is the XEP Diagnostic Utility. This is a standalone program that you could run and have it check for the XEP setup and the email settings, as well as being able to send an email from the Diagnostic Utility to see if it is able to get through.
Okay, here's another question. Are you planning on increasing the number of messages and adding variables into the messages soon?
Very good question, and we appreciate everyone submitting requests like that. And at this time, with the limitations that we're up against, probably not going to happen with the current version of the XEP module. But in the future, who knows what we'll have in the near future with all the enhancements being made. But as we stand right now, no additional emails, no way to enter variables into the body of the message.
Okay, next question was, does Yahoo Mail work with the XEP?
Oh, that is a good question. No. The three that I know do not work that require the SSL encryption on the body are Gmail, Hotmail, and free Yahoo. Those three do not work. Now, I think Yahoo may offer a upgrade to the email service which doesn't require the SSL encryption, but I think there is a charge for that, a yearly charge.
Okay, next question. Are there any known national ISPs that do not work with the XEP? For example, AT&T or Comcast?
As far as the email functionality, or?
Yes.
Good question. I haven't run into one, but if I learn differently, then we'll include that with the follow-up email.
Okay, next question was, did you say that ELK-RP would remain connected when you send a test message?
Yes, when you click test under the XEP Setup email tab, RP remains connected. Now, one indication that something is not set up correctly, if RP disconnects immediately at that point, then we know we have a setting incorrectly inputted into the XEP. And in most cases, it's the primary DNS server address that needs to be looked at.
Okay, does ELK provide the white project box for XEPs that were purchased with the old black box plate that only partially covered the XEP?
The housing is actually the the ELK-PB1, Project Box 1. It can be purchased separately. No, they'll be lost. I'm sorry, was there another question there, Beth?
We're just kind of looking through a couple to see if there's a good one for everyone.
Okay. All right, while you're doing that, I will say that if you have questions, you can email techsupport@elkproducts.com. Our hours of support are Monday through Thursday from 8 to 6:45 Eastern Time, and then Fridays from 8 to 5 Eastern Time.
Okay, Brad, that looks like that's it for questions. We do have a few remaining questions, and we will email you directly back if we weren't able to answer that live.
Okay. Well, at this time, I want to thank everyone. Didn't quite go as long as I thought we would, but I hope you got some valuable information on how to set up the email function of the XEP module. And I'd like to thank Beth and Tim for helping in the background, and Amy Strickland for creating the slides for us today. And once again, I appreciate your time in attending. And if you have any questions, please let us know. And Beth, I will turn it over to you.
We just want to thank everyone for joining us today and hope you have a great weekend.